Oh, I'd like to finish up my discussion on the county commission. Uh, and some of it will have to be read. This is from an intellectual luminary of mine, a man named Rousas John Rushton in the Institutes of Biblical Law. He discusses law. He just says that law in every culture is religious in origin. You hear people say, oh, you can't mix politics and religion. That's nonsense. That's like saying, well, these thoughts, these words, these deeds of your life, we're not going to count. That's not part of your religion. And if it's not part of our religion, why is God going to judge us on it? Folks, it's part of our religion. It's part of who we are and what we are. If you're not even involved, that's part of your religion. Non-involvement. Okay? Now, I know personally the priesthood, the authority to act for God here on this earth, the basic function of priesthood is in fact government. If you think for a nanosecond Satan doesn't counterfeit government, you need to sit down and have some chocolate, high quality chocolate, because you're in some sort of hallucination. He continues, because law governs man and society, because it establishes and declares the meaning of justice and righteousness and what's right and what's wrong. You do that, you're going to get punished. You do that, it's okay. Say, it's moral, it's religious. Law is inescapably religious in that it established in practical fashion the ultimate concerns of culture accordingly. A fundamental and necessary premise is in any and every study of law must be, first, a recognition of this religious nature of law. Second, it must be recognized that in any culture, the source of law is the God of that society, principally the God of those who make the law. If the people have nothing to say, I have nothing to say about 95, and that might be a low estimate. 95% of the civil government, city, county, state, nation, world, 95% of it is wrong. It's evil, satanic. It's not, it's a counterfeit of God's program. Okay? That's the God of those people who embrace it. I don't care their church affiliation. I don't care their pontificating. I'm only interested in their behavior. I'm a pretty simple guy, actually. Continuing. Yeah, actions do speak louder than words. The oligarchy has a different God than us. Now, our plight will continue to darken in the future. But we must continue to proclaim the good message of the Constitution and of Christ and freedom, but kindly without emotion. Okay? This is not between us and them. We've told them it's between them and God. Okay? Whether the politicians speak to businesses about their recalcitrant employees or have their bureaucrats attack code violators when others in the neighborhood are 3 times worse, or have their gunfighters, the Gestapo, the KGB, individuals who take an oath to the Constitution but never read it. An example, 3 o'clock in the morning in a suburb. Nobody's on the streets, dry, it's not raining, it's not snowing. You're driving You see a stop sign, you pass, don't stop. You don't damage life, liberty, or property, but the cop who takes an oath before God to support the Constitution and support life, liberty, and property and protect it, he pulls you over, infringing your liberty. He comes at you with a gun, threatening your life. He gives you a ticket, stealing your money. Who's the criminal? He does whatever he's told to do. It's my job. It's the law. I have a family to feed. If I don't do it, someone else will. You can read that in the Gulag Archipelago about the KGB. You can read history and find that with the Gestapo. Folks, but they don't take an oath to a God-inspired constitution. We have a problem here. Now, let me read this. This is communist America, socialist America. You don't own anything. You're a slave. Most of the major ills of the world. This is Isabel Patterson, God of the Machine, which is quoted by Henry Grady Weaver in the Mainspring of Human Progress, which I learned about in either September or October conference up in Salt Lake 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 40 years ago, a while back. Most of the major ills of the world have been caused by well-meaning people who ignored the principle of individual freedom except as it applied to themselves, and were obsessed with a fanatical zeal to improve the lot of mankind in the mass through some pet formula of their own. It's at this point where the humanitarian sets up the guillotine. The harm done by ordinary criminals, murderers, gangsters, thieves, is negligible in comparison with the agony inflicted upon human beings by their professional well-meaners. Isabel Patterson uses the term well-meaners. They do. I don't know what they mean. That's between them and God. No, Isabel Patterson uses the term do-gooders. They do no good. Whether they're well-meaners, I will call them well-meaners, but what they actually, motivation of their heart, that's between them and God. That's not between me. But they do no good, so I call them well-meaners. Who attempt to set themselves up as gods on earth and would ruthlessly force their views on all others, with the abiding assurance that the end justifies the means. But it is a mistake to assume that the well-meaners are insecure. The danger lies in the fact their faith is just as devout and just as ardent as the ancient Aztec priests. Mexico City had over 100 temples. At one temple, 4 teams of priests, 24 hours a day, over 4 days, sacrifice 20,000 men, women, and children. Folks, these people have no problem doing that. These are the last days. Bad times will continue. War will continue. It's exciting because we live at a time when Christ is returning. Life doesn't get much better than this. Thank you.